All right. We should be live right now. See how it goes. Yesterday's live stream got cut short a little bit. But today we wanted to go over decentralized web, specifically IPFS, or interplanetary file system. That's a mouthful. But IPFS is a really interesting tech that is just kind of coming into existence. Something that I am looking forward to, and I kind of want to tinker around today with it with everybody. I haven't used it a whole lot. It is used quite a bit on blockchain-based projects, but I believe a lot of websites will be based on IPFS here in the future, as how nice would it be not to have servers or a host or all those different types of things. You could actually just distribute it completely decentralized, which would be pretty darn powerful. So it's been around since 2018, and we can do a lot of things with it. So I'll let everybody kind of trickle in chat. How's it going, David? Henry, how you doing? Should be a fun stream though, because just messing around with IPFS is kind of fun. And I've done some things. If you guys use the Brave browser at all, IPFS is actually built in, so you can actually go ahead and put in IPFS addresses and it'll automatically resolve them, which is pretty darn cool. But it doesn't matter what browser you're using. We can use other browsers using the desktop app as well. Oh, maybe the sound a little bit up. Am I a little too quiet? It looks like my levels are pretty solid, in the 20s. You might be watching YouTube videos, which when you go live in OBS, usually it takes about 10 decibels off, so all live streams are usually a little bit quieter. If I go too much up, if I do like 5 decibels, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but I might peak a little bit depending on the words I'm saying. So live streams are always just a little bit down from what you experience in actual YouTube video. So yeah, that's why all live streams are a little quieter. But I usually have a pretty good beat on the levels. Oh, blow it up a little bit. All right, yeah. Yeah, let's blow it up a little bit. How's that? It's almost too much. Too much. Back away. Good morning from Northern Utah. First time in the live stream. Good stuff, man. Yeah, Bill, a lot of times I'm just looking for new things to explore in tech, and I'm always got my eye out for whatever's out there. And IPFS is kind of what I'm looking at today. It's interesting technology, as we can upload whatever we want to this node. It's not the fastest thing though, and they're still working on a lot of the speed behind IPFS. But it is fully decentralized, and you can put pretty much anything you want up there: videos, pictures, text files, all kinds of stuff. Thanks. Nice background. Yeah. Normally it's this. Usually you got that scene. You guys are probably used to that from the videos. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Good morning from Houston. All right. We visited Houston not too long ago. We checked out NASA. The NASA Center. It was really hot though. We went in like July. Don't go to Houston in July. Even people from Houston will tell you that. Yeah, it's KDE Plasma. I'm pretty much on KDE all the time these days. I don't really mess around too much because I'm in and out of a lot of different OSs. So I pretty much stopped doing a lot of window managers. I still have that one project, Titus awesome window manager that I kind of built, but I don't typically use that much. Yeah, Ross, actually my cousin came and visited me because he was like, hey, show me the studio. And I was like, All right. So like we walk out of my garage and he's expecting like this big production, and then he walks in this tiny room. He's like, "Dang, you do a really good job with your camera work because it is like a closet in here." And I'm like, "Ah, thanks, man. Means a lot." Oh. Natural Science Museum. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, Bob. Yeah, the IPF thing, let's jump on the desktop. We can get into it. I think we got enough people here. Just wanted to let a little slow trickle in. So IPF is really interesting. If you're using Brave browser, and we can just pull it up, IPF is actually built into the settings. And if we just go settings, you can go down to IPFS. This is actually a couple different ways of doing it. You can do a gateway where you're not running a node locally, you're just connecting through someone. By default, the gateway address is set to like dweb.link. I've switched this to Cloudflare. I think Cloudflare is just a little bit better, but this is how it resolves a lot of the IPFS addresses. However, if you're like on Chrome or something, you can go to ipfs.io. You can actually manually put all this in to pull up an image, and we'll go ahead and do that. We can actually just install it. This is what runs it. You can run the desktop. If you're on Windows, you can do it right here. We're probably gonna go command line or CLI because this is a Linux box right here. It's a little bit more cumbersome, I think, to set up, but once you set it up, I kind of wanted to run a node all the time. And since I have multiple PCs, it would make sense to kind of centralize that node over on a dedicated box that just runs all the time. And that's what I'm going to do. Doing some dark web content. I don't think you can consider IPFS dark web. Although it isn't, you can't censor anything in IPFS. So yeah, I guess I could see some nefarious content making its way in. But I'm really big into decentralization and getting out a lot of the central entities. People are like, well, what's wrong with the internet today? Why? What problem is IPFS trying to solve? And probably what I'd say is about a year back, we had an AWS problem. It might have been 2 years, but almost half of all the AWS servers went offline, or Amazon Web Services. And this took down probably more than half of the entire internet. No websites would load, all this stuff, because everyone hosted their stuff through AWS, or a lot of people did, or a lot of traffic ran through there. So it took down a good portion of the internet. And if things were more decentralized and node-based, this wouldn't have happened. And that's what IPS aims to solve by decentralizing things. And it's definitely going to be a long journey, just because there's so much money in this business that Amazon's not going to like losing money by doing IPFS. Or what we're on right now, Google, YouTube. It's also, this could be problematic for them from a platform standpoint if it became mainstream. But then again, with everyone wants to go to a platform or a central place to find their stuff, so it may not impact YouTube as much as you want. I just like the freedom that it gives us with being able to do that. So that's the use case for IPFS and why you might want to do it. And what is IPFS? Basically, it is a bunch of nodes that run all over the place. And let's say I run a node here and you run a node wherever you are, and probably thousands of other people run nodes, and we all store different stuff, right? But we all are browsing the same decentralized web using IPFS. Eventually we run into the same stuff and it gets cached in our node. And then instead of going all the way to the source node where it's hosted or uploaded from, it actually gets slowly decentralized throughout all the different nodes. So instead of going to that one spot to get to the content, like right now you have to go to my server to get served from christitus.com. Well, instead it would say, hey, this node's already visited and has a cached product of that. I'm going to go ahead and grab it from that and it'll pull it from there. So it's content-based delivery, not location-based delivery. And location-based delivery is how pretty much the entire internet works right now, where if it was content-based delivery, we'd have a much faster and just more efficient internet than what we do, because one person's not trying to give out everything. Think of YouTube. Can anybody really compete with YouTube? And the answer to that is no, not really, because YouTube has all the servers, the transcoding, the bandwidth, all the infrastructure to serve the billions of users YouTube has. And I do mean billions. I think 2.2 billion users per month visit YouTube. And nobody can really compete with that model because of the scaling and other things. In a more content-based delivery method, you'd be able to do that. You'd be able to fix that issue, because it didn't matter if something becomes more popular. Well, it just gets shared around and more nodes pick it up, and therefore it broadens out, and the bandwidth and everything from that central entity, it doesn't matter, which is kind of cool. So that's the gist of what IPFS is. Hopefully I explained that well. I'm not very good at explaining things, believe it or not. I'm more of a technician, so a lot of times I get a little too high level and I try and break it down. So if you say, hey, Titus, stop talking this nerd talk a little more straight to me, I'll be like, all right, let me try and break that down a little bit better. But I try and do it. So hopefully that made sense. Is IPF any relation to torrent? It's the structure's a little different. It's similar though, similar to how torrenting works. It's more of a peer-to-peer share kind of thing, but it just works differently. The back end is structured strangely, or a little bit different. What about security? I'm glad you asked. That's another good question. Everything is based on a hash or a security hash on IPFS. So like, let's say I upload a text document, which let's actually just show you. It might be easier. Let's install it through the CLI, and I'm going to do it through a server. And I think I can just pull this in. I'm going to launch into, probably should have done this on Windows. It probably been a little easier for folks, but either way. Let's log in. I'm going to host a node and actually install it right here. So I have a brand new PC that we're going to go ahead and install IPFS on. And I think we can just do a sudo apt install go-ipfs. Let's see if it's in the repositories. I can't remember. Nah, it's not in repositories. Let's go to the install instructions. And I haven't used it that much, so this is going to be an interesting. I'm learning alongside you guys. I get the gist of how all this works. So we're actually going to just do a wget here, and we're going to be building it directly out on this system. So let's grab it. It looks like it's a pretty sizable file here. Not too bad though, 20-30 megs. I do not have a 3D printer. I wish I did. Someone must have watched a Silicon Valley. Let's install this on a bunch of fridges. Love it. All right, let's extract this. Go FS, and we'll put this in let's just put it in IPFS. Oops. Nope. Let's just extract it. Forget it. It's fine. Go IPFS. And then I think if we look back on this, yeah. We just need to do sudo bash. I don't think we need to do bash. I think that should be fine. All right, so that looks to be done. That was a pretty simple install. IPFS version. All right, that looks good. It's easy enough. Let's just, I think that put it into the bin file. Yeah. So it's a very, very small file that it doesn't even look, the install was, it looked like it just moved IPFS to the system resource local bin file. So that's not really even an install per se. It's just a simple executable. So very, very simple to install. So we got that, and yeah, we already did. That's it. So it's installed. So now let's initialize that node. So we're gonna go IPFS init. This shows my peer identity. When it comes to security, everything's secured with these hashes. So we should be able to do that. Let's get started. Let's see what it says. All right, we successfully installed IPFS and now interfacing with the IPFS Merkle DAG. If you're familiar with Merkle trees, it's very simpler, very, very similar. It's alpha software. Yeah. So the reason why I'm doing it this way, if you're on Windows and you want to try this and follow kind of along, go ahead and install the Windows version. It's going to get you to less of a... I just like having a central server running IPFS, but if you just want to run it on your desktop, you'll get this prompt. I believe we can just come right into the server now, and I'm just going to do 6. Let's see where we're at. Okay, that's Nginx, but I want to say there's a port on this, like 4001, or maybe it's 5001. No. All right, well. Let's, oh, no, I need to run a daemon. That's right. I read a little bit about this before starting the stream. So let's go IPFS. IPS, I think it was daemon. Okay, daemon's running. And then we should be able to go to, should be like a web GUI somewhere in here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, it's 5001/web GUI. All right. /web GUI. And no. Nope, that did not work. Well then. We're gonna shut that down. Do I have UFW on here? Can't remember. No, it's inactive. Good to know though. Yeah, it supports it natively. I might just, I'll come back to that. Let's just go ahead and pull up IPFS. Oh, that's cool. So they copied their entire website to IPFS. That's neat. Let's go. Do I have anything here? All right, you know what? I'm gonna just reboot into Windows. Let's switch over to Windows. It's easier. NIM project is making a mixnet, so it's supposed to be more private and faster than Tor. Okay. Yeah, no, I'll check that out. That's pretty cool. Web UI. Oh, JD. I might have fat fingered that. Watch, Windows will have updates. That'd be great. Windows bad. I don't care. Sometimes it just works, man. Sometimes it's a little bit easier. I'll show more of what most people will be looking at. IPFS.io. And we're gonna do the desktop app. I kind of wanted to do the desktop app anyways because it'll just be a little easier. Been a little bit. I installed an extension. How good is Burt Manager on WSLG? Terrible. That's the answer to that question. It's absolutely atrocious on WSL. I tried it, and I think I installed Manjaro using WSL. It took like 3 hours. So, less than ideal. You know what? Let's install this using Winget. Let's see. Is it in Winget? Oh, it is. Okay, cool. We'll just install that guy right there. IPFS desktop. That's easier. Yeah, it's on Chocolatey. It's on Winget as well. I honestly, with Winget, it's still kind of infancy, but I love the fact it's kind of just baked into Windows. If you have Windows 11, it's just there by default, which is nice. And it's a little bit better. I love the package managers and the fact that, like, if we just go Winget installed, I think it is. Let's see. Oh, no. Winget list. It'll actually show all your packages right here, and you can actually purge packages and other things from more of the CLI, which is nice. It'll actually show a bit of this. If you want to just grep, for those Linux users, you use grep. For this, since it's PowerShell, I think it's like search. Oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher this. I think it was search. No. It's string, I think it was. Can't remember what it... Oh, hell with it. Whatever. But you can actually just... I want to say grep Winget, but it's been a little bit. I'm starting to get rusty on my PowerShell just because I don't use it as much as I used to. Oh, well. Alright, so we got IPFS installed. If you want to do it through here or through Winget, pick your poison on Windows. And we'll close out the old telephone. And then we got IPFS desktop. We will allow access. And then this kind of builds out. Has a nice little interface. What I was trying to do on the Linux portion, I had a little Linux server spooled up, and I wanted to connect to it through just a regular web browser, whether that's Chrome or Brave. I wanted to just connect to that, and then you get the same tool without actually installing it locally. Yeah, I think it was search item. You might have been right there. So how does it give unlimited storage? That's the question some folks happen, is because it gets distributed out. So even after you theoretically delete the file, if it gets shared or another node picks it up, which it will if it stays there for any period of time, it'll stay on the network. So that's why you kind of have that unlimited storage as long as it gets used by other nodes or gets picked up by other nodes. That's where the unlimited storage comes into play. So let's upload something here. We'll just grab a thumbnail or something I've been working on. Let's see what's the last thumbnail I've done. Let's go free tools. Here we go. We'll grab this thumbnail and put it over here. So let's go to files, and then we can actually drop. I think we can drag and drop right into here. So let's pull up a file browser. We'll just put this right over here. And then we'll try one of these MP4 files as well and see what we get. Because I want to see, these are bigger files, almost, I think the smallest one in here is probably like 1 gig. And we'll do that and check it out. But let's grab a little thumbnail first. Or actually here, we'll just do the thumbnail for this live stream. And this should go ahead and upload. We should have a hash right here. And this hash, let's we can create an actual file name too and put that on here and do like a text file as an example as well. But we should be able to just copy this link, and I'm going to put it in chat, and you can actually open it up in your browser and see what you get. But let's share this link, copy it, and we'll just put that right there. See what happens. Is it going to be able to pull it up? I think it might take a little bit to distribute out. Let's see. And I think I can just put that. That's the link for that. So if you click on that, you should be able to get my thumbnail, but it is not pulling up right now. I might have, do I have something missing here? Let's go status. All right, the outgoing and incoming. Oh, there it goes. So it did take a while. That was a hell of a delay. Oh my gosh, that is scary when I'm that big. Yeah, so that did work. And now, since more people have looked at it and referenced it in chat, it'll just keep speeding up the more use it gets because it's getting distributed through anybody running this node. So let's delete the file and then see what happens. Because since so many people in chat have already downloaded it, what happens if we delete it? Because I don't know the answer to this question. I'm just curious. I like to break things. I like to do the things they tell you not to do, just to see what happens. So let's delete this file. Sure, you want to remove, it will no longer appear in file section and will be permanently removed in the next scheduled cleanup, though copies may exist in other IPFS nodes. This action cannot be reversed. It's a good question. What happens when we do that? Let's take this. Let's try and pull it up again. Yeah, it's still in the node. Still refreshing. What do we got? Refresh. Let's do a Control F5. Let's clear our browser cache. You can kind of see it. It's still pulling down though. Huh. So I guess the question here is, what happens if you upload something to IPFS and you don't want it to be there anymore? I guess you don't want to upload anything to IPFS that you ever want to remove. And how does it clean itself up? Those are the questions. I'm asking this not to be rhetorical. It's just questions that kind of popping into my mind right now. Like, yeah, I don't know. Because that's not coming from my local node. I've already deleted it. Yeah, well, maybe we'll come back to it. I'm going to leave this tab up. Let's try a video next. I was doing a video for... I was doing a Linux course that I was building out, and I think I did like what's inside a Linux distribution. Let's upload that. That is, oh man, where's the properties on that sucker? My goodness, I look angry in that thumbnail right there. Anyways, 1.47 gigs. Can that even go through? That's a big file. What's gonna happen? End up crashing all the IPFS. That'd be hilarious. But let's see. We take that. Is that's a big one. You know Joe, Chris? I don't know a Joe. I don't think. So this uploaded a full MP4 file. And this is, I kind of want to see what happens in this realm, because the output to push this out to a bunch of nodes, this has to like just blow up off the charts, right? We're talking 1.5 gigs, just what's going on in my head. That has to be going out, but my outgoing is really still nothing. Watch the stream go down because we're pushing too much out. So this is what I want to see. I want this should be going up to like at least 100 kilobits maybe. But it says hosting. So let's I'm going to put the link in chat. Let's see what happens when everybody starts hitting this and this node starts to go bonkers, right? Let's share the link, copy it. 1.5 gigs. Oh man, I'm a little bit weary if we should do this or not, but hell with it. Let's give it a whirl. That should be interesting. So, let's go to status. We got the incoming. Let's see what the outgoing looks like. All right, it's starting to pick up a little bit. Let's push it right here. Let's see. We'll let that load up. Is this still going? Oh no, it's still in that IPFS node. This right here, it looks like it's loading. It's gonna buffer for, dude, really? No way. Okay, here we go. We're getting some outbound traffic. Yeah, buddy. I was like, okay, that just doesn't make any sense. We have to be able to send all the file out. I wonder how long it'll take to buffer. That's the question. That kind of brings us to the modularity of everything. There's really 5 pieces to Linux. And the first portion of Linux is gonna... Okay. That's some voodoo magic. All right, let's see if anybody else in chat. The video has to be just dog slow because there's no way to be able to push all this out to all the other nodes unless it's like grabbing all the little pieces and then it slowly distributes. I would imagine this would take a good 10 to 15 minutes. But it is pretty much maxing out my outbound. I'm capable of doing, for outbound internet, around, I think about 10 megabits. So it's only going about 1/5 of my internet. But then again, I am streaming and other things that are going on, so it's still probably half my internet's left out. So we have one person saying it's playing. Other people said dog slow. We got probably, it has to be super slow. The big question, we'll have to revisit this file in, I would say, 15 to 30 minutes. And then see if it's distributed out enough to where 10 people could play it after the initial spool time. So we got a couple people saying it's playing. It's a bit choppy. Yeah. Yeah, the big thing is I want to see here on my end, I want to see that outgoing to be dropping less than 1 megabit. Once that starts to get down, I know it's starting to get distributed out to all the nodes. Yeah, so that's the big thing. We'll see what happens with it. Like I said, let's give it, it's 12:08 my time here. Let's give it to 12:15 and then see, have everybody hit it and see how it does on the node. I imagine it'll still be choppy and slow though. Is it still an emerging technology? It's just kind of interesting and neat to see. Because the upload, I know uploading this file to YouTube probably would take about 10 to 15 minutes to upload to YouTube. So once this gets there, we started the upload around noon. So I imagine around 12:15, this file should be close to being done or distributed. Yeah, the scrubbing of a video through IPFS, I'm sure, is just a terrible experience. Yeah, Node script. Oh, let's check that out. Turn on dark theme, yes please. Node script IPFS. JS IPFS. JavaScript IPFS? I don't think this is it. Is it regular IPFS I think's done in Go. So apparently this is a spin of IPFS JavaScript. Yeah, you should be able to share the link in all places. And the other thing that I have here, which I might need to go chat full screen here for this, just so it's unstoppable domains. There is, as far as the future of the internet, so now we've done video, we've done picture. Obviously picture works a little bit faster just because of how data works. But it did go ahead and do it. So let's, I'm gonna log into this. We're gonna go to my domains. And here we go. So this right here, I have christitus.crypto, and this is a different one, but there's an actual website portion of this, and you can upload your entire website to be hosted with this completely decentralized. Unstoppable Domains, I did a video on a different channel going over it. I'll probably link it in the chat if you're interested. But this is a website you buy once and then you have forever. And then right now I'm trying to redirect it to christitus.com. That doesn't work though. If you actually go to christitus.crypto, I don't think it resolves to any address. But you can actually upload an entire website using IPFS. And the big thing that I'm waiting for on IPFS, this is a little bit down the road. You can kind of do it today. I tinkered around with it a little bit, but I couldn't get it to work reliably where I'd actually host stuff on here. But you can actually put an IPFS hash that's an entire folder that would have, let's say, a static site. Because all of my site, christitus.com, is made with Hugo, and it is static, and it's actually pretty manageable in size to where I could upload it all to IPFS. And my thought was to upload it all, host that entire folder, and then as stuff changes, I just need to re-upload to IPFS and it'll go ahead and fix it. But that pointer that is happening in IPFS for the folder repository that would, with changing content, changing HTML content, there was some bugs or something. I tried it and it just kind of kept timing out for me. But this is something that I kind of want to kind of just open people's minds, just go, hey, this is starting to get there to where you could buy a website and then upload everything in IPFS. And the cool thing about this is with Unstoppable Domains, it's all for life. So I own christitus.crypto. Even after I die, I own it. So my corpse owns this website is basically what I'm saying. And then I could upload an entire thing and it just live on forever as long as the technology exists, which, I mean, that's kind of a cool thought. It's just hosting it and doing it is a whole different thing. I'll probably end up building out, let's go ahead and do, I think we can build out a website. We're going to just do a simple HTML page and upload that. and see what that does and see if it resolves to an actual website. But kind of cool. I haven't checked out Arweave. It's similar to IPFS, but better. What is Arweave? Let me look it up. It sounds familiar. I swear I looked at something like that the other day. Store data permanently. Arweave is there. It's very interesting. Welcome to the PermaWeb. Arweave network lives in the PermaWeb, a global community-owned web that anyone can contribute to and get paid to maintain. The PermaWeb looks like a normal web, but all its content from images to full websites is permanent, retrieved quickly, and decentralized forever. Just as the first web-connected people over vast distances. This is pretty cool. So this is a good example of, I don't know what's going to be. I was intrigued by IPFS, but just now in chat, Arweave came up, and I was like, okay. So what will be the future is probably the biggest thing. But I do know this idea, the idea of permanent storage, fully decentralized, immutable. I think that is powerful beyond words, and that somebody's going to do it right. That's neat though. Arweave. I'm gonna check this out too. We can pull this up. Let's see. How is it running? How's it? Profit share. Okay. Well, I don't mind getting paid for doing work. Pay once to securely store your files. Okay, let's. Their website's a little weird. R drive. Is this pay as you go, censorship resisted, permanent hard drive. Select wallet. Arweave. Is this based on Solana's network? All right, this is running on a blockchain of some sort. Arweave runs on. What's it run on? Yeah, it would be terrible for anti-piracy. There's no doubt, because there's no way to block any of the content. Also, some of the more egregious stuff that need to be censored can't be censored. So that would also be problematic. I wonder how they'll tackle those issues. Yeah, so you definitely have to pay for Arweave. Or IPFS is definitely more on the free and open side of things. This is a miner. It's interesting. So the mining is done in stages, meaning you don't download the whole chain, because I was like, there's no way they can make that work. There's no set minimum requirement to run a miner. I think of like Storejoy, and there's been a couple other projects. I think there's a file coin of some sort that you upload stuff, and those were all monthly fees, I thought. This is the first one I've seen that's permanent. But I still don't know what the hell this is running on. Yeah, I'll have to look into this. It's interesting. Huh. Post a tweet using your Twitter account. Yeah, look, anytime I see that, I'm like, I'm out. I'll look into it. It's very interesting. I was more on IPFS and unstoppable domains type thing just because it's a little more mainstream. But food for thought. This is still all up in the air. Yeah, we're on Windows right now. I was on Linux earlier, but I was just like, hey, I want to run a node, kind of see where everything is. Let's check back in on our video file. It looks like the video file's starting to taper off. So I think it's pretty well distributed. Looks like most of it's under about a meg now. Oh, should have it pretty well distributed. That was pretty impressive, to be honest, having so many people in chat say they could actually play the file through that 1.5 gigs. I'm impressed. That's better than I thought we'd get, for sure. Solana. Yeah, I have problems with Solana. Solana's not well decentralized. I think it has less than 1,000 validating nodes. That's where I've heard Arweave. I thought it was Solana. I actually just did a video about Solana problems over on the crypto channel because it is not well centralized. It just had the whole chain came down because of excessive TPS or excessive transactions per second. Then it has a really bad tokenomics where it's distributed. I think 60 or 70% of all currency and supply is distributed to private entities. And then third and last thing, the slashing and how it roots out bad actors is almost non-existent, to where when they have bad actors or people acting in bad faith running a Solana node, it will actually halt the entire network. So Solana is actually a pretty terrible right now in a lot of its ways. I don't like the fact Arweave's built on that, so I wouldn't recommend Arweave just by the fact it's based in Solana. But that's just me looking at it from a technical perspective. But I feel a lot better about IPFS based on what's gone on here. So the other thing that most people don't realize with IPFS, most NFTs, you know, like your favorite celebrities shilling some NFT or some JPEG for you to buy. I think I was on Twitter and it's like Gary Vaynerchuk or somebody was just like, buy my NFT. And I'm like, oh my God, no. But I digress. All of the actual JPEGs and images stored and referenced through many of the NFT projects is coming from IPFS on the back end. So almost all of the IPFS, all those images, hey, how are they doing these NFTs? It's actually hosted through IPFS for free. It's just the separate, it doesn't matter what blockchain you're on. It could be Ethereum, Cardano, whatever, Solana. All of them are referencing a lot of the IPFS and the images. Cardano's interesting. It's probably has the most promise, but the transaction fees are really expensive. And then there's also scaling issues. I think it only does, I just looked it up today. I think it was 257 transactions per second. Ethereum does 20 transactions per second. Bitcoin does 8 transactions per second. All these are, it's better, but it's still not to where it needs to be. And I think they're only in the Gorgon era, which I think there's 5 layers to Cardano. So there was Byron, Shelley, Gorgon, which is smart contracts today, layer 4, which is scaling. I think it had like Hydra and some other stuff in there. So it needs to scale up. So we'll see. Come back in a year or two and we'll know if it can scale, because everything needs to scale to at least 2,000 transactions per second to be feasible for like a Visa or MasterCard replacement, because a lot of those require anywhere between 2 and 20,000 transactions per second. No, IPFS is just a protocol that is used. I hate the crypto space just because everyone's always obsessed with the price, but the actual technology behind it is what I'm focused on. And it's so interesting to see a lot of the blockchain and the decentralization that's happening. It's utilizing IPFS for normal people, not take the money and all that stuff that everyone hypes up and just forget about that. I'm not going to talk about that. Let's talk about the actual things we can use today for free forever. Those are the things I care about. That's where everything is. That's where the future is. All this other stuff is just a sideshow that people are obsessed about, because people are greedy little goblins. All they care about is money. Which, hey, I get it. You need money to live, but it's not everything. Spoken like a person with too much money, but I am not that wealthy. So, moving on. How big is the blockchain of IPFS? I don't know how big this is. I'm honestly, we're just kind of doing testing today just to see what happens with it. What is a NAS? Network attached storage. So a NAS is like a Synology box. I've covered that a lot on the channel, which I can actually just pull that up. I use, let's see, this is my Synology box. So this is what I use for storing most of my data. Right now, I think this one's, yeah, it's only got 40 terabytes, but I also use it for games. Like, if I want a game on here, a good example is like Call of Duty Warzone, which, okay, there's something that's bothering me. I gotta address it. The new Windows Insider build, it's off. What the hell? Like, this should be shifted like that way. The start button's like dead center and then everything's to the right of it. What is happening? What the hell? Okay. Huh. That bugs me. Damn it, Microsoft. Okay, we need to update that. Insider builds are always a little dicey. Anyways, moving on to... This is what a NAS is. Basically, I store a ton of stuff to where, 40 terabytes, you probably don't want to put that in your thing. And these are redundant. So I have a whole bunch of platters. And if I have a hard drive failure, that's fine. If, let's say, this whole room catches on fire, that's also fine. It sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Because I think I have... It should be this. Yeah, so this is where I upload a lot of it. I don't think I'm syncing everything to the storage, but this is what my disaster recovery looks like. Just some of my important files that I need for disaster recovery. And then I also stream all my games from it. So this right here is an iSCSI drive that's connected right up to it. I have 5 terabytes, but I could easily allocate 10 terabytes or 20 terabytes or... Yeah, sky's the limit. I could attach, I think. I think I've done 100 terabytes in an iSCSI on a Windows machine just to see if I could do it. But anyways, yeah, I put all my games in here. So like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, I remember that one was like ridiculous. Yeah, that one's a 200 gig game. So as games get bigger and bigger, instead of trying to upload or upgrade your hard drives over and over again, I just run it all through my NAS box through an iSCSI, because the actual throughput is around 10 gigs. And with a 10 gig throughput, you can, you're not going to hit that limit. Most NVMe drives top out around 3 to 6 gigs per second or gigabits per second. And your 10 gig connections run at 10 gigs. So even with an NVMe NAS box, you're not going to run into that. Now, most people, if you're using spinning platter, like these are mainly spinning platter, that runs about 100 megs. So honestly, you could even use a gig connection if it's just old rust, old spinning rust. But this is actually cache accelerated, so I can actually get into the 2 gigabyte range. So playing games and stuff through my NAS for the storage is actually pretty good. I did a video on this where I actually do real world testing, which was pretty cool. Yeah, so a lot of people talk about failures. With a NAS box like this, you can do replication, which I've also done a video on that. But usually I do snapshot replication to another box, and you can see what I'm replicating. Like, I don't back up my backup. I don't want to replicate my backups of my images, because this is actually an image drive. So let's say I blow up this whole computer, I can just go in there and go, hey, restore my backup, and it'll just image this whole system with a moment's click. But like all my files, YouTube videos, all that gets replicated over to another box. And then that box, so I have 2 local copies and then 1 disaster copy. With backups, there's always the 3, 2, 1. 3 copies, 2 local, 1 remote. And that's just a standard practice, no matter what you're using for backups. Always adhere to the 3, 2, 1 rule. If you can. That's the thing, yeah, for sure. Hey, David. I hope you have a good weekend too, man. But yeah, what a NAS box is just big, large amounts of storage that has some redundancy. So if your computer blows up, usually the NAS box is a lot more resilient than a regular computer. They're built better. And you can do RAID to speed them up a little bit, and then you got caching. There's all this stuff that goes into them that you can really go crazy with it. But that IPFS is working like a champ. All right, so now I want to delete the file. Let's see what happens. We've given it almost a full 30 minutes now. Let's delete the file and see if it still plays, because it's still pushing out quite a bit. Still between 1 and 2 megabits a second. So we're going to take this file and we're going to delete it. Let's see what happens. If anybody can play that file now, let's come back to our render here. Let's reload. That kind of brings us to the modularity of everything. There's really 5. Let's see if it's able to load in the middle. I don't think so. Because this is a 1.5 gig file, so it's not going to be like YouTube, because there is no transcoding that happens on IPFS. You should be able, Antonio, I think, let me hit show. You should be able to actually pull this up just using IPFS. Let's to actually build out that Well, hello, all right, it did work. Program, and you can build from. So this is the MP4 file. I've deleted it from my. I gave it enough time to where most of that file should have made it. There's also something called. But yeah, it's working. Surprisingly, does it go all the way to the end? Let's go. See if it can do that. Do you scrub the BetterFS drives? Yeah, you typically want to set up a scrub schedule. I think I did scrubbing about once a month with Synology pretty much does it automatically. I think it makes it really simple, but I remember when I was using FreeNAS for a bit, I had to set up a scheduling for scrubbing. But yes, you should be scrubbing your drives. People will always be able to type in random letters to find random videos and stuff on IP. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how viable that is. We'll see. What is the Linux command you learned recently that made your life easier? I don't know about recently. I learned this one of so. Oh wow. So that does look like it's gonna work. That's amazing. That's a big file. That was I only hosted it for 30 minutes and it's still living. That's amazing. Yeah, let me show that. But this is kind of an interesting thing. Something I kind of discovered. I might do a video on IPFS. kind of go a little more in depth, more step by step. But one Linux thing command that I learned recently that was actually pretty good. Here, let's get into Linux. Because this is kind of a really neat command. It's called ncdu, otherwise known as no curses disk usage. That's how you remember it. So let's go, and I don't even have this installed on old WSL. So let's go ahead. Can we make that bigger? Oh, that's right, it's Windows. Layout, font. Let's go 24. Yeah, that works. Okay, so ncdu, and then you put like root. And what this does is it actually goes through your entire system. Obviously, since I did root, it's gonna pull in everything. So probably don't want to do root because I have, well, I think around 7 terabytes of storage on this system. Yeah, let's cancel that. Let's just do ncdu from home. But it shows you all the disk usage for every single folder. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I went ahead and I made it to where the stream doesn't get killed if it has an interruption. So full disclosure here, the stream PC is running a release candidate, and it's kind of like but it's better for YouTube. YouTube streaming sucks, and the new release candidate, I can see chat in the stream, so that's why. But at least I've figured out a way to where I can have the stream PC just freak out and die, and then I can come back online, which is nice. So it exists. It's just nobody really streams on YouTube, and there's some little gotchas. Twitch is much easier, but I hate Twitch. So there we go. Yeah, I was running the stream through IPFS. That's why buffering. That's funny. Oh my gosh. Let's see scenes. Oh, I'm in the wrong scene. Oops. There we go. There we are. Oh wait. 1 second. There's nothing back here. Yeah, so far we had a little bit of a stress test yesterday on the server where we had quite a bit of people. I think we got up to 50 people at one time, and TPS never fell below 20. I think at one time it registered like 19.96. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. But what I was doing was that no curses disk usage. If I look here, just no curses disk usage, and I think it was OPT. No, I think it's SRV is where I put I put it here. Because I was like, where is all the space going on this server? Because this is a VPS. This isn't local. And I was like, where's this thing going? So it's good to, like, whatever server you're using, if you're starting to run out of room, you're like, okay, what's happening? Where's all the space going? For me, on the Minecraft server, I was doing it. And if you go to like minecraft.christitus.com, you'll see this server, and there's something called Blue Map. And it's a 3D map usage to where you can scroll in anywhere in the world. And it's using most of the space on the server at 23 or 24 gigs, to where if we pull it up, it actually, go to the server map, it actually gives a full view of that. It starts with the spawn, but you can actually zoom in full 3D. Now, most people use Dynamat because this can be pretty resource intensive, because this is the spawn of the server right here. But as you can see, you can kind of really come down. And I think it'll even go into caves and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. And I think I saw something the other day. It was kind of neat. But yeah, it was a neat tool. Like people from like Romania, I had some over in Germany, because the server's actually hosted in Los Angeles, and they were still having no problems with the ping, and they set out all these signs saying, hey, no problems. And I was like, that's awesome. So a neat tool to figure it out, but very resource intensive. Probably if it keeps going and keeps bloating up, I'll probably have to cull down that online map. But very neat, very neat. Where are you get that animated background? Oh, that's a wallpaper engine. Right off of Steam. I think it's in curses. Hey, whatever, you know, Lone, I failed English class, man. I'm very, very much, I guess it's left-brained. I don't know. I'm just terrible with English. I wish I could tell you I speak another language, but not really. Speak a little Spanish, but not enough to be fluent. And my English is not all that great either. It's just pretty funny. I don't have a video how it's set up. I'm going to be creating one soon, though, because it's actually pretty complex and stuff. I'm not using like any pre-built stuff. Everything's built directly off of, I think, Ubuntu Server 20 with Java 17. Yeah, another big story with Microsoft. I think someone in Twitter sent me this. I think it was Matt. Let's see. Where is that? No? Yeah, it was Matt. Check this out. This is a big exploit that's happened. It's a security vulnerability. Windows scripting engine memory corruption vulnerability. That's probably gonna be exploited pretty bad. But yeah, this is something that's probably gonna patch. So if you're actually using Windows, you're probably gonna want to do security patches very, very soon. I don't think they've actually patched this vulnerability yet, but it does require user interaction, which is good. But it can be attacked through email or web and compromise your system. I think the CVE came out, yeah, September 14th. But it's another pretty bad one. It happens. Just kind of goes with it. Kind of shows you the different vulnerable systems. Pretty much everything Windows 7 and up is vulnerable to this attack. I'll put it in here. It's a neat little thing. Here, I'll send it to chat. You guys can check out that vulnerability. Speaking of latest Microsoft vulnerabilities, that was a big one that kind of came across my plate. Do you use YubiKey or other hardware keys like that? I do use YubiKey. I highly recommend them. YubiKey is probably the most universal one out there, and it works really, really well. I absolutely love it. Will you be back on Linux? Yeah, I'm always in Linux usually. Whether I have Windows, I think I started the stream in Linux. Yeah, I just bounce around. It just depends on what I'm doing. A lot of times for when I'm showing stuff, I like to be in Windows because that's where most people are, but still incorporating some Linux elements so people can kind of get their feet wet with Linux and understand it a little bit better, using either WSL or different things to kind of get people broken into it, because just tossing someone into a Linux distro can be a jarring experience for some. Peppermint OS is still very good. Very lightweight. I love Peppermint. It's good. Are you streaming from Windows? Yes. Stream PC. The stream actually just went down because of a blue screen. But I don't know if I can blame Windows on that one, because the OBS I'm running is release candidate. Release candidate 2. And I don't know. It could also be my hardware too. We'll see. Reason why I run it on my stream PC is mainly because I have a bunch of Elgato stuff. I have Elgato lights everywhere. I have Elgato Cam Pro, and then I have the Steam Deck, and then, man, Elgato needs to hurry up and sponsor me before I spend all my money on it. IPFS is covered a little bit earlier. If you actually scroll back in the stream, I go through the terminology of what IPFS is, how it's used, and then we did a couple tests on IPFS. If you ever tried OpenBSD on servers, it depends on the server. I really haven't used it too much on servers, though. Most of it is all Linux-based. What is the status of Intel GPU drivers for Linux? It'll usually take 6 months to a year before we see a lot of the GPU drivers kind of evolve with Linux. We'll get there, though. It's not IP file system. It's interplanetary. I can't even say it. It's a long name, but yeah, it's basically decentralized file storage. I'm not even gonna bother with say it. Last promise. Any plans to do any further videos with Arch Linux and Chrome OS? Any limits on the software that can be installed? Love all your content. Yes. Actually, let me show you this. This is a really interesting one. I want to say, let's see, is it under projects? No, that's not in my projects page. Oh, that's right, because Chrome OS uses Chrome, and I don't have Chrome over here. It was Luke Smith Twitter. Twitter's where I get all the breaking. Not Luke Smith. Luke. Ah, crap. It was one of the Chromebook guys. Chromebook, Luke Short. Why was I thinking Luke Smith? Weird. All right. I think, yeah, Luke Short. Yeah, this is what I was looking at. So this is actually enabling something called Venus display drivers, and I was gonna do this, but I'm waiting for the latest Chrome OS update. I'm on the dev branch on the official one. If I switch to developer mode and put it on Canary, I can get on the more kernel that I need. But right now with the kernel 94, Chrome OS 94, I'm not able to get the drivers I need to make this work just yet. But I think in the coming weeks, maybe as late as October, it depends on the release schedule from Google, we'll get the latest Chrome OS with a newer kernel. Because right now I think it's using Linux kernel 5.4, and I need it to be 5.10, which should be the next release. And once that kernel gets upgraded, I should have audio using Arch Linux in Chrome OS, and then I can also have the actual display drivers for the Venus display drivers for full graphics acceleration, which means most games are going to play pretty darn good, like Skyrim and all those things. And then I'll probably even push it to the limit with Cyberpunk, which that'd be pretty hilarious. I would love, that would be some glorious clickbait if I could be like Cyberpunk on Chromebook. It would be great. People would be like, what? Oh, Titus is smoking crack. I gotta click it. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I need that more version of that update from Google to happen. We'll see, though. Very interesting stuff, though. I love Luke's tinkering with the Chromebook. But yes, right now I think you have to have the hidden canary channel to have that latest Linux kernel. And no, you can't just trick it and push it up, because the kernel and how the containers and virtualization, it's not really virtualization, it's mainly how the containers and that works within Chromebooks. You can't just install the latest Linux kernel. You have to have the base Chrome OS system upgraded before you could do that in the container storage. So fun fact. You still recommend Clear OS? No. I don't know. Did I ever recommend Clear OS? I mean, it's neat. I like how they do containers, and I like its upgrade package that Clear has. but it's not exactly the most friendly for most users, and its reliance on like flat packs and snap packs and app images is a bit much. There's not many good repositories for ClearOS, so most people won't have a good time. Can we get some privacy on Chrome OS? I would say just install everything through your Linux on it, and that's all containerized out, so it shouldn't have too much crosstalk, and you should be relatively private. What are your views on Manjaro Cinnamon using Vivaldi as their default browser? I mean, I like Vivaldi. The Vivaldi team is actually pretty good. I like I think one of their lead devs or their person that basically made Vivaldi, it was originally like, I think, a splinter off of Opera, and it's a good browser. I was actually rocking Vivaldi for a long time, so I'm fine with it. I mean, and I'm sure Vivaldi gives some kind of kickback to the Manjaro team. That's the thing that kind of drives me crazy about Linux. I'm like, it's like nobody believes in making money. I'm like, dude, these guys got to eat. They got to be able to support themselves. And that's probably the hardest thing to do in Linux. And most of the neckbeards in Linux are always like, well, the support system. I'm like, support is not a viable income stream for these distros. It's a bad business model. And a much better one would be bundling software. As much as we hate it, as users, we hate that, it does help support the people. So bundled software is kind of goes with the territory. Where did you buy your Ryzen Chromebook from? I can't find the 5000 series anywhere. I got it directly from IBM. They were running some kind of super sale or something to where I was able to get it for like $600. I got $350 off buying it directly from IBM, which is insane. Will you make a vid on tick watches, programming it or something? I made an actual article about tick watches. If you're interested in tick watches, one, it comes very, very bloated. So, let's see. There's a trash man. All right, tick watches. Tick watch. Fix tick watch lag. So I have a tick watch, and it's very, very responsive now. But it comes with like all this garbage, and what you need to the mob voy this package, all this stuff that comes with tick watch, which here I'm gonna put it on that all the stuff from Mobvoi, flush all their packages out. They're the people that design TickWatch, but there comes with some telemetry, health, fitness. There's a lot of extra crap that gets bundled into the TickWatch, and then you got all the Google stuff that gets on there too, and it just bloats up the whole. It makes your watch run like crap. So I hated that, but check out this. I'll link it in chat. I highly recommend doing this to your TickWatch. It will make it run super quick. And you can actually, any Android-based watch using Wear OS, you can use these instructions and look and list all your packages and start to cull it down to where you get a more responsive watch and also a more minimal watch. That's the thing. A lot of these packages I didn't like. That's cool. What do you think of Firefox losing so many people? Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like Firefox per se, just as a user experience. I don't care about the politics of it. It was more just I didn't like how it operated. I was so used to Chromium-based browsers that I enjoy that a little bit better. But it's not a good thing. Obviously, that means Google will have complete domination over pretty much the internet, which sucks. But hey, you know, that's it. Takar, he hides his amount of bat from Brave. The Brave killed. You probably are wondering why your favorite YouTuber is not mentioning Brave a whole bunch lately. And that is because Brave killed the affiliate program. Once upon a time, if you clicked a link in the description and joined and installed Brave, anybody in that affiliate program would get kickbacks for you installing Brave. That ended December 2020. So I don't have any Brave. Mainly because I didn't hold on to the Brave. Any Brave I got, I exchanged out for Ethereum or Bitcoin. It's fun though. Do you have some creative uses for tick watches? I don't. I don't even have it on today. Occasionally I wear it, but I mainly do it for notifications when I want to get notified of stuff. And I don't know, lately I don't even turn on the notifications. I think my phone's actually off. Yeah, see, my phone's completely off. I just turn it off. It doesn't even have power. I probably should boot that back up in case someone calls me. But I don't like notifications and stuff. When I'm doing stuff and I need to be focused, having the dings and the buzzes are kind of a buzzkill. No, Chromebooks do not support booting from USB sticks. Have you tried Rocky Linux? Yeah, Rocky Linux is amazing, Jeff. I use CentOS. Actually, the first 10 years of Linux servers was strictly using CentOS. I used CentOS 6 starting out. I think it was in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and then CentOS 7 for forever. I mean, pretty much. And yeah, it's one of the best servers you can do because it just doesn't really change, and you can just throw it up and do a headless server anywhere, doing mostly websites when I was doing it, and telephony boxes, setting up like asterisks and then doing it all through CentOS was kind of my jam. How's Windows 11? It's okay. It has its moments. Some stuff that I hate right now. This off-center, like this whole off-center taskbar is driving me bonkers. Like it's wasting that entire left side, which is strange. I don't know. That was just in the recent update. They'll fix it, I'm sure. What do you think of Luke Smith? He's all right. I don't have anything bad to say about him. Anybody that teaches people things, I think there's some power in that. So I'll never hate on someone for trying to teach someone a new skill. I think there's a lot of value behind anybody that does that. In general, you only need privacy for certain transactions, or why do you need internet security? I think that's a fallacy. Honestly, there is no privacy and security on the internet. VPNs and operating systems, all these things play a part in it, but there's so many other ways to track users that very few people can stay away from socials. Socials is where most people fail at the internet. When I stopped talking about privacy and security because I just, frankly, the people that were attracted to it were, and honestly kind of idiots. Because a lot of people are like, well, I'm private and secure, and then they're like using Twitter and YouTube and all of social media, and I'm like, why even bother? I mean, come on. You can't use socials and be private. That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one. That's just dumb. So the fact is 99.9% of the population uses Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google services. They use all these things and they try to sidestep them, but everyone cross-pollinates. They can't help themselves. There is no privacy. Privacy's dead. That's where I leave that. On a scale of 1 to Wendell from level 1 techs, how nerd about tech are you? I'd be Wendell for sure, man. Me and Wendell could hang out, I'm sure. I love technology. Love talking about all things tech. Seeing something new that I haven't seen before. That is the era of discovery. There's just no better feeling in the world than discovering something new. That's all what this whole stream was really about. Was like, hey, I haven't really looked into IPFS much. Let's explore it and kind of see what it can do. That's so cool. There's something cool. So that's the whole point. That's why I made it Chris Titus Tech, because all technology kind of interests me. Even the stuff, there's not anything I'm look at and go, this is terrible, I never use this. I always look at it and go, that's interesting. Let me use it for a little bit and see what happens. There's that curiosity. Always stay curious. I think it's so important to stay curious. Jekyll versus Hugo. I haven't used Jekyll very much. I built my whole website using Hugo, though. I love Hugo. You'd be very hard pressed to pull me away from Hugo right now. I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. I'll definitely hit Wendell up one of these days. I need to do a better job with my collabs. I haven't reached out to pretty much anybody. Occasionally I'll chat back and forth with people on Twitter, but that's about it. I don't do very well with that. Yeah, Cardano and stuff. I just, on the crypto channel, I try to just warn people, don't dump a bunch of money into it. I really think that whole market is overheated, and I think it's about to pop. And when it does, people are going to lose a lot of money. I only say that because that happened to me in 2018. And if I can save someone from doing something stupid, I would love to do that. But the whole market's kind of crazy. Like, I made a video in 2020 on how to buy Ethereum. And if you look back, and that's 1 year ago, and you could see me buy, I think it was like $1,000 worth of Ethereum at I think it was 150 a coin. And right now Ethereum's trading at, I think it was like 3,000 and something. I mean, it's nuts. It's gone like 20 or 30x what it was. So I think that whole market's just getting ready to just go and crash. But that's just the pessimist in me. But I do love Cardano and a lot of the things that it does. I think it's very, very neat. Opinion on Linus from LTT move on bot seed from Framework Computer. I think you're talking about the modulated computer that he covered not too long ago. I think there's a couple people that got that component computer. I like the idea of the Framework Computer where it's all modular and you can switch out every single little component. I love that idea. I think that's amazing. So I'm for it. I think that's a good idea. Any future project on custom de-googled Android ROM? Possibly, yeah. I need to do more mobile stuff. I've done a lot of custom ROMs, but I haven't really recorded any of it, which I need to start building out like my mobile stuff, because most people are into mobile phones. And I think one of my most popular videos was deep loading Android, which was good. What are your current specs on this machine? Here, I'll load it up for you. Oh, I'm not on Linux here. I'm going to reboot back to Linux. I like to just run a NeoFetch. So we'll reboot it to Linux, and I'll just do a NeoFetch there. Check out Rethink DNS. I will. Are you using a Frameworks laptop? Oh, no. I'm not. Hugo, way above WordPress. No competition. I hate WordPress. A good example, like here, I'll do a GT metrics report of christitus.com, and then I'll show you the power of Hugo versus a WordPress. And I encourage you to run the same speed test on my website, so you know, doesn't matter where you are in the world, it's always going to be about 1 second to load the entire site. And that's because it's a static site. There isn't a huge footprint. So it's all just this flat surface. There's not a lot of attack vectors. You don't have MySQL injection. You don't have all these different things that can happen to a WordPress instance. With static sites, it's so much more secure, so much faster. So you have security and speed. Why the hell would you ever use WordPress? Unless that's all you know, then that's a reason to use WordPress. But if you know other stuff, I don't see a point in using WordPress anymore. Period. There's so many better CMS systems out there as well. I mean, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I know a lot of people love their beloved WordPress, but it is crap in my opinion. What games do you play, if any? I have a hard time playing games these days. A lot of times I'll start playing a game and then it just kind of, I get stuck on like something like Minecraft. I was playing with my daughter. That's what led to the whole Minecraft server. But I used to play a ton of like MMOs, like old ones, like Final Fantasy 11, EverQuest, some really old ones I used to love, but these days I don't really game too much. Not as much as I'd like. I do play the occasional Warzone. I have an old buddy from high school that we still jump on and play some Warzone. It's usually every Sunday night. Air cooling. I hate liquid cooling. I made a video about it and I got completely flamed. Pissed off a lot of people. I think liquid cooling's the biggest scam in computers. Biggest waste of money. I know that kind of makes people mad, but I'm right. Most people try to make it so they look cool. Cool. That's fine. That's neat. It looks neat. But are you really needing to overclock your hardware that much? Are you really going to maintain it every year? Drain out the whole reservoir? Or maybe every 2 years, switch it out? This is all just a pain in the butt. Why not just use a good heat sink and a fan? It'll work for 5 years, at least. And then the fan goes out and you're like, oh, things are running a little hot. Let me replace the fan. No problem. Don't have to worry about leaks. Don't have to worry about the pump going out. You don't have to worry about all that crap you get with cooling, liquid cooling. I probably shot myself in the foot right now with saying that, because there goes any sponsorship, but no one's going to sponsor me from that. I don't get hardware. So screw it. Liquid cooling's a waste of money. If you're a millionaire, go for it. And you don't care about money, but most people don't do liquid cooling. I'll move on. I know I made people mad saying that. Yeah, WordPress is hard to secure. It is very, very difficult to secure. All right, as far as what I'm running on this system, again, I'm a minimalist. I'm not looking for the craziest performance out there. And I'm just running a 5600X, 32 gigs of RAM with a 2060. So, pretty base level system. Nothing too crazy here. And it does the job for me. I never run any problems. I never really think, oh man, I wish this was faster. Maybe when I'm building something, like doing a compile of a program, I wish I was like, man, this would be awesome if I had a Threadripper. But that's pretty few and far between. Yeah, I mean, if you're upgrading every 2 years and you're on the bleeding edge and you're trying to squeeze every little bit of performance, liquid cooling could make sense in that scenario. But most people don't fall into that scenario. Most people don't have thousands upon thousands of dollars to dedicate to their PC rig every year. And it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to most people. And most people just end up using like a crappy AIO where it's like one thing I think should be banished from the market is the 120 millimeter AIO. I think the thermals on the 120 millimeter AIOs that are liquid are worse than a regular Noctua rig. That's terrible. Why the hell would you do that to yourself? At least if you're gonna go liquid cooling, at least go with a 240 radiator I would lean towards the 360 millimeter radiator and just do it up. If you got that much money to blow, go the 360, go top notch, go with custom, just blow it out of the water if that's your thing. But these AIOs that are just like little dinky things, forget about it. You're gonna cause more harm than good there. Will the chip shortage ever end? Probably not. Well, I know. I mean, it'll eventually catch up. I think they're building more factories. It's just gonna take a couple years to really work through, I think. Video on fixing corrupt BIOS. Depends on the motherboard. Some motherboards have backup BIOS that'll fail over to, which is actually pretty good. And then you can easily flash the other BIOS from that. But it's been a while since I've seen bad BIOS flashes. A lot of the boards these days do a really good job with doing a correct BIOS. Having said that though, you know, this stream PC has blue screened on me a couple times, and I think I did a recent BIOS update to it. Might need to look to see if there's another update. But it's especially true with AMD chips. AMD chips with older boards, there's so many updates with that you probably need to be updating your BIOS with an AMD chip because there's a lot of performance gains to be had. What headless CMS would you recommend? Man, it's been a while. I'm not the go-to person for content management systems. I'm usually the guy you come to and like, hey, we need to install this CMS on this data center. I'm like, cool, I'll set you up. But as far as recommendations and building on it, I'm not really that guy. I'll do some DevOps and stuff like that where I'll work on the say, hey, I'll set all that up for you guys, but I'm not really a developer. Love to hear your thoughts on Rethink DNS. Claims a better DNS service. I'll check out Rethink. I think you're the second person in chat to tell me about Rethink. Will you ever cover the Win 10 auto unattended installation? I thought I did. I mean, it's just an unattended XML file that you just throw in there. I think my custom video, I think I might have mentioned that. If you're really want into a lot of unattended installs though, you might want to shell out the $30 for NT Lite, because NT Lite does a good job of making that unattended XML. It does a great job of it. Yeah, local privacy. I wouldn't call that privacy. I would say local security, Joseph. I think security and privacy is too interchangeable. I think most people should focus on the security aspect. Privacy aspect is a more difficult thing to tackle. Have you ever used Axe software as a CRM? I haven't. I think installed it a couple times, but not really. Most of the CRM, I think we were using Great Plains, and I think I was using Open ERP a little bit too. Obviously, Microsoft, I think, bought out Great Plains, and that turned into Microsoft CRM, which was kind of a nightmare from what I remember. And then there's been a couple different CRM softwares I've used, but it's been too long. It's been too long. I try not to mess with that stuff these days. Where's the ISO Debian bookmark SID? I don't think Debian does an ISO for SID. You can just download, I think, Bullseye and then just change the repos to be SID. I think you'll have 4 lines for the actual sources.list. You delete the last 2, which I think are security patch lines, and then you just change the other ones to SID, and then Bob's your uncle. You're good to go. Did you make a video on how to fix a water damaged laptop? Yeesh. No, I don't think I will make a video on that either, if I can help it. I did have an instance where my cat knocked over water on top of a PC that had vents in the top, and all the water drained in, and it basically made the computer turn off. I thought the computer was toast, but luckily I was able to flip that computer upside down, let it dry over the course of about a day or two, and then I was able to wipe it all down, and then once it dried, I actually turned it back on and it came back up, surprisingly, even with a 32-ounce glass of water dumped into the PC. I mean, I caught it right when it happened, but still, it's kind of nuts. I don't have a video for Hugo for beginners. I do have a video on Hugo in general. I can link in chat for you. Let's see, what was it? I think it was website. Let's see. Yeah, hosting your website for free without a server, I think was this one. This was what my Hugo one was set up for. Here, I'll link that in chat. No. Oh, my Synology's broken. Or Synergy, not Synology. Synergy. What's going on with you, Synergy? There it goes. All right. Hugo setup. That's basically how I did it. That's about as beginner friendly as I got. But when did you start with Linux? Been 2003 or 2004. Back then I was a lot younger, and I think I was using it for, I had an apartment. I don't know if this is illegal or not, but anyways, it's not viable today. So I'll just go ahead and tell you. I was using Knoppix because it had a whole bunch of hacking tools, and back then everybody secured all their wireless access points with WEP encryption, which WEP encryption was terrible. You could snoop on it as long as your neighbors were utilizing their wireless, you could crack it in about 5 minutes and get into other people's Wi-Fi. So I was on the 3rd floor in the middle of the structure, and I was able to get 6 Wi-Fis. So my idea was grab everybody's stuff, filter it into a gateway, combine it, and then not only do I have to not pay for internet, then I could actually browse faster than the internet I could get. It's fun. But anyways, yeah, that's what I started with Linux, which was fun. That's more black hat than anything else, but that was my first experience with Linux. And then most of it all the way up to about 2009 was more revolving around network. A lot of network devices back then, routers and those types of things, flashing like custom firmware. I remember the WRT54G from the Linksys line was so easily programmed, and that's where the project DDWRT came from. And it had custom firmware, and you could get really cool stuff with a lot of the networking. So back then I was more in the networking side of things, and that was most of the Linux interaction I did. As far as computers and servers and stuff, not so much. Maybe the occasional server, but most through the 2000s, all the businesses ran Windows Server back then. Some Linux here and there, but more spotty. And then it wasn't really to 2009, 2010 that really started to see a lot more break-in to the Linux server realm. And then I used Linux servers. Well, I still use them today. So ever since then, many Linux servers. And then it wasn't until I started YouTube that I even learned about really doing it as a desktop. And that was kind of like a dare. Somebody was like, hey, I bet you can't use Linux desktop. And then I was like, I'm sure. I bet we could figure it out. Let's do this. And I switched everything to Linux desktop. And yeah, you can do it. There's some pains, but I was just like, at the end of the day, I think it was this last year, I was just like, okay. Well, I think I've definitely proved that original YouTube comment wrong back from 2018. And then I think 2020, I was just like, cool. And then I use Windows, I use Linux, I use it all now. I don't really care. That's kind of funny. DaVinci Resolve versus Kdenlive. I mean, DaVinci Resolve can be good if you need like color grading and some other stuff. You're going to probably want DaVinci Resolve for more of the pro products. Kdenlive, though, man, I did 500 videos in Kdenlive. The first 500. For being free software, you just can't beat Kdenlive. Kdenlive's still amazing. Like, I still kind of a little bit nostalgia about using it. I don't think I would ever go back to Kdenlive because, frankly, this is what I use now is Final Cut Pro on Mac OS. It's amazing. I mean, there's just no competition for me. I love it. I hate Mac, but man, you cannot deny Final Cut Pro on Mac OS is so good. So good. I get it, but man, that's where I stand with video editing. Check out Sandboxy. I don't think I've ever heard of Sandboxy. Let's see. Let's pull that up. Sandboxy. What is it? Trust no program. I like the idea of this. What's Sandbox Plus? Isolation software for 32 and 64-bit Windows NT operating systems. I mean, if you're really gonna sandbox stuff, I really think you should use cubes. I mean, if you have to use that, nah, I'm still in the Cubes OS camp. This right here is what I would use. Cubes with virtual machines. You just can't beat the compartmentalization here. I just don't trust the base layer of Windows. If you're really going into the crazy tinfoil hat privacy realm, cubes every time. As much as I would love for a Windows program and being in Windows, I mean, I just can't. But neat program though. Neat program. How do you capture your videos? Everything's going through OBS, which OBS can be buggy, and I'm on a release candidate, so the stream has usually crashed on me a couple times now because of that. Do you recommend any other way of having many disposable IP addresses other than a public VPN? Depends on how much money you want to spend, but yeah, you have options. You could do, like I said, renting a server space elsewhere and then maybe a block of IPs, but you're gonna have to pay per IP, so it's gonna be an expensive endeavor. There's no way to do this for free because IPs are pretty limited. And I mean, maybe IPv6 you could do it, but IPv4, man, they're just running out of addresses. There's so many addresses that are taken and being reused that it's kind of difficult. Yeah, Final Cut's back OS only. I wish if Linux had Final Cut, hell, that would be amazing. Even if Windows had Final Cut, I'm sorry, it'd still be on a Mac. Because Macs are boring, but man, are they reliable. So all of our processors are going in 2025 when Windows 10 dies. You always got Linux. Who knows where Linux will be? Just in the last 3 years, Linux has really come a long ways. And you got VMs too. And hell, there's probably still some Windows 7 users out there. Hate to say that, but probably. Which do you like the most, Arch or Debian? Ooh, what am I doing? Because that's a difficult question to ask. Arch, I would do if I was gaming. If I was a big time gamer and I wanted to be in Linux all the time, Arch. If I was a big production guy or hey, productivity guy, and I'm doing mainly more office work and stuff, Debian. That's where I land. So if you're like a hobbyist and you're like more of a hot rodder, Arch. If you just want to get stuff done, be productive, Debian. I mean, that's kind of where I put the two. But you can't really go wrong with either. I love them. I love them for what they are. Yeah. Oh man, the cringiest thing I think I've seen is walk into a hospital. I forget what I was in the hospital for, but we went to a hospital and I remember walking by the nurse's station and I look over and they're all using Windows 7. And I was like, huh. I wanted to lean over and be like, you know, you guys using Windows 7 are endangering all the lives in this building. I'm not entirely wrong there, though. A lot of ransomware hackers have been attacking a lot of hospitals, specifically targeting those using Windows 7 because they're the easiest to infiltrate, and if they're unpatched, they are extremely easy. Just a simple Metasploit you can get in, drop your payload, and then ransom off that hospital for a lot of Bitcoin. So seeing hospitals run Windows 7 is probably the most depressing thing I've seen so far this year. Because I know they can be exploited pretty bad. Yeah, WannaCry and all the variants of WannaCry. It's so bad. Are you using custom-made Hugo theme? I think it was based off the Zizo theme, which... Let me pull that up for you. Zizo theme. Hugo. This is what I based my blog off of. I thought it was so good. Hugo theme. Zizo? Is this it? Close. Overview, maybe? Maybe not. Yeah, Z themes. Where's the GitHub for this? Yeah, this is it. I think it was actually made by a developer that was Korean, but this is... Here, I'll copy it into chat for you. This is the theme I based most of my website off of. I just love the base design. I changed some of the settings on it, but very, very cool. And you can see the similarities. I've cleaned this up a little bit. I think I probably should add my picture back in there, but I don't know. People will stare at my ugly mug or not. Very neat, though. I love that theme. So good. What do you use VMs for? Everything. VMs are life. The only thing better than a VM? Docker container. But yes, no, I use VMs all the time for everything. And pretty much every business that you know uses virtual machines. Most businesses, I think, are still running the traditional SAN with the hosts and then a whole bunch of VMs loaded on them to accomplish all the different tasks. So the whole virtualization revolution happened in the late 2000s with like VMware, and proceeded with like Hyper-V and Zen Server, XCP-ng. Those are all like base level hypervisors, and they really revolutionized how much stuff, because prior to that, when I'd go into a business, you'd have servers for every little thing. You'd be like, that's my Exchange server, that's my domain controller, that's where my files are, and you just have different boxes for a lot of these different roles. And then virtualization came about, and you can consolidate a lot of those VMs into just 3 or 4 boxes. Instead of having a full 48U rack, you could now have, I don't know, 24 U's maybe, even less, with just the SAN and then a couple hosts. And then the cool thing about that is you could have one of those boxes go down, and then any of the virtual machines running, your domain controller or whatever stuff you got, and you could just be like, yeah, and it would just migrate itself to the next box with no downtime. In a perfect world. I've had that fail before, but usually if there's high availability set up properly on those, you never run into any downtime. So virtualization and VMs are amazing. Now, what you're probably thinking of when it comes to VMs is, what is it good for a residential user? And it's neat to try all kinds of different things. Like you can try new Linux spins, you can try to sandbox other stuff. Like a good example of a VM is, I made a video called VPN Kill Switch. Specifically, a lot of people just load up a VPN on their main system and go, okay, I'm gonna go download whatever. But instead, doing it in a VM and then making a firewall and a bunch of rules to where no traffic, that every single bit of internet traffic on that VM will go through the VPN tunnel. Because sometimes you have DNS leaks and other stuff that happens to make VPNs not very secure. But if it's in a kill box or has a little kill switch in your little black box VPN, it'll every bit of traffic from that whole system will always go out through there. And if, let's say, for whatever reason that VPN goes down, all the traffic will just cease. And that's a really good instance of a VPN. Actually, I did a video on that. Let me look it up for you. I used to do a little more technical videos, a lot more, but probably it just depends on what I'm doing for the day. Sometimes I don't as much as I used to because a lot of people don't watch them and they require a lot more time. I think it was VPN Kill Switch. Let's see. Do I have it? No, that was not it. VPN? Yeah, here we go. Check this out. It was this guy. See, yeah. It only got like 16K views, and I did that. Oh, I did that back in 2019. Yeah. But here's a VPN kill switch that was done in a VM. And there you go. It should. Oh. It's a fun deal though. But yes, VPNs can be used for all kinds of things. And it's great for compartmentalization too. When it comes to security, privacy, you have to be using VMs and compartmentalizing a lot of the stuff that you do. What do you think of Libre Gaming? You know, I don't know much about it, Control Plus. I'll have to look it up though. I think there's some really cool free software, like Tux Racing is probably the biggest, and then Zero AD look really cool too. So as far as free and open source gaming, that's neat. Chris, you willing to make a video on VM gaming? I made a video about PCI pass-through, which is pretty much what you're asking, but it doesn't really have a purpose in today's world because most people can't even get one good GPU, much less two, which for PCI pass-through, you have to have two good graphics cards, or at least two graphics cards. One to pass to the virtual machine and one for the base operating system. And like I said, hell, I can't even get a graphics card. I really want the new 6000 series AMD cards. That's really what I want, but hey. Eventually, they'll probably come into stock. I'll buy one and then like the 7000 series will come out. Oh well. Which hosting provider should I use? Depends on where you're at in the world and your budget. Believe it or not, I actually like GCP. As much as people crap on Google Cloud Platform, I actually like it. It's not bad. I really don't like AWS. That's the only thing I'd say stay away from is AWS. Not a big fan. I might use AWS. No, I pretty much switched everything from S3 too. I was about to say, sometimes I used Glacier and some of their storage options in AWS, but I pretty much moved everything to Backblaze because Backblaze was super cheap and I like their interface a little better. How far away do you think we are from people moving away from Microsoft Windows to Linux? I don't think we've made any progress in that realm. I think Linux market share hasn't budged in like 3 years. And I think it even moved down from like 2 to 1% or something crazy. A lot of the market share has gone to Chrome OS and Mac. Mac has actually taken off. I think Mac's gone from like a 6 to a 16%, I want to say. Let me look it up. Let's pull it up right now. Let's see what it is. Or at least from the browser perspective here. I think it was operating system market share. And I think Stat Counter has something. This is all your stuff. Let's go desktop, not tablet and mobile. Get rid of iOS and Android. That should give us a little bit more. But usually Linux is always 2%, 2.4. Chrome OS has dropped a lot, actually. But look at Mac. Dude, Mac has been killing it. But let's go. Let's get a further. Do we have view all years? Let's go custom here. We see edit chart data. Let's start. Let's just pull the last 10 years probably. Let's go August 2011. Let's see what this looks like. So we get a little bit better picture of what people are actually using. Windows has dropped off quite a bit though. Yeah, you can see the slow, steady decline. Back in the Windows 7 era, back in the glory days, Windows had 90% of a lot of the market share, and that's dwindled. This past year or two, Windows has actually continually dropped. It's almost at 70 something. This right here, this little bump's probably from Windows 11, saying that's coming out. But the line that's moving is back here in August 2011, Mac was at 6.28%, and today it's at 16.14. Mac has picked up a lot of market share. And Chrome is like waxed and waned quite a bit. And it's kind of going up and down. And then Linux has pretty much always been between 1 and 2%. Like even back here, what was Linux? Was Linux even in here? Yeah, come on. No. 1%. So it's picked up maybe 1% in the last 10 years. So yes, we're very, 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 very far away from Linux seeing any kind of adoption. That's just the sad truth. Nothing's going to cause that. I remember, I think it was Windows 7 getting sunset. A lot of people were like, we're going to see the adoption with Windows 7. And instead, let me move across. I think it was right around this era where you see this big pickup. This is where your Windows 7 users went. They went to Mac. A lot of them did. Probably mainly for the Office Suite and Adobe products, though. NetBSD. Oh, Mitchell. Yeah, the M1 chip is undeniably good. Like, really, really good. I edit all my videos on the M1 chip. It's just good. Firefox, I don't know. Maybe Google will save Firefox. I think that's what we gotta hope for. Why I say that? Why would Google save Firefox? If we go back in time to the late 90s, you can actually remember a time where Mac was about to die and Microsoft was facing a ton of antitrust problems. In the EU, they lost a bunch of cases and they had to strip out Internet Explorer, which is kind of funny because 20 years later, it's more integrated than it ever has been in Windows history, but I digress. Anyways, so Microsoft was facing a ton of antitrust pressure and they actually bailed out Macs so Mac could limp along and Steve Jobs basically could save Mac, which is kind of an amazing story in itself. I think it was done by Cold Fusion. I think there was a really good story about it on Cold Fusion if folks want to watch the video of that. But that's why I say maybe Google will sweep in and do Firefox and be like, hey, We don't want you guys to die. We need the competition. But I think, honestly, politics have changed quite a bit. And yeah, I don't think any big corporation's worried about any politicians these days. I'll leave it there. Which OS is the desktop is the safest to use for online banking, if any? I would say probably Linux or Mac. Some Unix-based system, so I think you couldn't go wrong with either. Windows is obviously the most problematic because it has the most viruses. It has the most exploits. Oh man, I didn't know. Clive Sinclair. Why's that name ring a bell? I didn't even know he passed. Oh man, yeah, no. Oh, that sucks. Also saw Norm Macdonald pass too, just the past week. Love that guy. It's hilarious. R.I.P. man. Do you use Kodi? Kodi's actually really good. Oh, here's a really cool project. If you're really into Kodi, check this out. Oh man. There's something called Libre Elect. So let's say you have like a Raspberry Pi, and I need to do another video on this Libre Elect. I think it is. Yeah, this is it. So this is like Kodi rolled into an OS. So speaking of all these OSs, Libre Elect is just enough OS for Kodi, and you can load it up. I don't necessarily recommend doing it on a Raspberry Pi just because the GPUs on Raspberry Pis kind of suck. But I wanted to do this on a Jetson Nano, which I was doing that project and I think I got sidetracked. Squirrel. But I needed to jump back on that project because I wanted to replace like the Roku and the Fire Stick with a Libre Elect Kodi system controlled with a remote control, which, let me see, do I still have that? Like yeah, I got it. Check this out. Yeah, this is cool. Boom. This right here, I wanted to do like just a regular old one, hook this up to the Jetson Nano, so you'd have your full TV thing using Libre Elect right there. Ah, there it is. And then if you needed a full keyboard, you got the back of the remote. So you could sit there, browse the TV, and then be like, oh, nope, I need to type in, find this for me, hit enter, and then come back. And then you don't have all that spyware crap and all the nastiness of your Fire Sticks and Rokus of the world. And then you'd have your own open source sweet little thing that's probably even cheaper than what you buy, and it'd be much more performant than a lot of your regular old sticks. A project that I was working on and then I forgot about it until someone just mentioned something. But yes, Kodi. I do use Kodi. Oh, Apple has a security, and everybody has security vulnerabilities these days. What do you think, Manjaro shifting? Yeah, a lot of people asked shifting to Vivaldi from Firefox. I like it. I like Vivaldi, and I like Vivaldi better than Firefox. I remember Manjaro got a lot of heat. Philip Mueller and the team over there at Manjaro, I think they got a lot of heat for using FreeOffice, if you guys remember that. And man, I mean, I liked FreeOffice. It wasn't that bad. And Vivaldi, I actually enjoy better than Firefox. So, meh. Non-story to me. I never covered it. But then again, I don't like Firefox. So, again, though, I don't deal with all the religion, politics style of technology. I'm like, hey, what works better? Does this work better? Cool. To me, Vivaldi's a better browser. I said it. I shouldn't have said that out loud. People are throwing things at their screens right now if they're Linux users, but meh. It's true. I love Vivaldi though. It's good. I like Brave a little more though. Can you explain why Unix systems are safer than Windows in terms of a susceptible virus? Yes, I love this question. That is a great question. So there's two lines of thought to go down. I'm going to go down the most basic line first, and that is Windows is a very, very old operating system. Now you might be thinking, well, Windows 10 or Windows 11 just came out. That's new, right? And I'd be like, not really. Because underneath all that, which let's just show you. Instead of just talking, better to show than explain, as sometimes I have problems explaining. But basically, the NT kernel, which is what Windows has run on for 21, 22 years or more, has always just kind of slowly gone up and up and up. And they just keep layering stuff on it. But underneath all of it, it never really changes. And the problem with it is it was never built for security in mind. Maybe back in the 90s where they had two separate teams, one for business, one for residential. But Microsoft did something that I think made things very, very bad. And that was when XP came out and they merged the business kernel and the residential kernel basically into one. They took the things that made Windows secure in the old business realm and made them unsecure by default with Windows XP. That's why it had rampant viruses. And they've kind of band-aided this over the years. With Vista, they added UAC that made things a little bit more secure. And then they've done subtle changes here, such as incorporating an antivirus and Windows Firewall by default. I think Windows Firewall was actually Windows XP SP3 when that was instituted, but all these things were just band-aids because it was unsecure by default. And you might be looking right here, hey, this is Windows 11, it must be all the same. But underneath it all, you can see all of it is still the same old Windows. Nothing has really changed. Even some of the older ones like this, all of this stuff is really not changed at all in the past 15 years. And it's not me crapping on it. That's just from an administrator's point of view. I can still use Windows like I did back in 2003. Mainly because Windows really hasn't changed. And this has made it very insecure because there's so many things that they've tried to band-aid it up and there's no peer review. So most of the Unix-based systems are open source and then the Windows systems are closed source. And what that means is you have thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of people poring over all the open source code for Linux. Because it's worldwide, it's on a whole bunch of different servers. With Windows, you just have the people at Microsoft. And it's a much more limited subset of people reviewing and looking for security flaws. And that's the main problem, where you have the open source stuff, which I find more secure than the closed source stuff. And some people would disagree with me there and say, hey, there's security by obscurity because the code's not open, therefore it can be, nobody knows what's going on in the black box. But I don't find that to be true in history or by how many exploits there were in the past. But this is Windows, and that's why I say Unix-based systems like Mac and Linux they're all built with security first in mind. Every user that's built on a Linux machine or a Mac machine never have admin privileges or root privileges, where that's a little different on Windows. A good example here. We go into properties here, group membership. By default, everybody's part of this admin group, unless you set this up as a standard user, and then you take that standard user and then have an admin user. So to set up Windows to be more secure, like you would do in a business, you would typically have a standard user and an admin user, and then you just don't allow your standard users to install programs and do stupid things. And that's how you kind of secure Windows. There's ways to limit the exposure, but by default, Windows is exposed a lot more than a Mac or a Linux. It's kind of a drawn out explanation, man. I think I mansplained the hell out of that. Oh well, you guys got the point though. Hey Peter, how's it going? Yeah, and zero days still get found, yeah. And a lot of people say the exploits and types of exploits, the numbers of exploits. I think I saw an article, it was a spin article by like TechCrunch or somebody. I don't remember the actual publication, but they were like, hey, there's been more exploits found in Linux than Windows. And one, I think it was Debian Linux, which is more of a, less of a business or security grade Linux. Most people in Linux, I think it was 3,000 exploits in the past 20 years on that version of Debian. And then for Windows, they kind of fudged the numbers because they were only counting the exploits found in Windows 10 instead of Windows 7 and Vista in the same time period of Debian. So it wasn't even a one-to-one comparison. But then you could even look at more of a security-based distro like Red Hat Linux, and that one only had like 1,000 so security exploits. And then you look at the types of exploits that were happening on each system, and a lot of the Linux-based exploits are not really that big a deal. They're a lot less severe. And a lot of the Windows-based exploits were something called remote code execution, meaning I don't need your interaction to control your computer. And a lot of those exploits have been more on the Windows realm, and that's caused many issues. So, man, that was a long explanation. But that is why Windows is the least secure operating system out there. It still all has its time and place, and it's not like you can't secure Windows. It just is much more difficult. Ubuntu versus Kubuntu. I'm always going to say Kubuntu. I love Kubuntu. KDE versus GNOME. That's no decision. Ubuntu, 100% of the time. We need a fully modular kernel assembled by smart scripting based on your hardware someday. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever really get that. It'd be cool to see, though. I'm down for it. What's the difference between Linux and Unix? I saw an article about it, and I remember reading it. It was really kind of interesting to see certain portions of Unix, and Unix has had so many forks over the years. It's like the granddaddy between Darwin, which is what Mac OS is based on. Then you have the BSD people up top. So you had BSD, Darwin, which is more BSD kind of based. And that's what Mac's based on. And then under that, you had Linux, which was kind of pseudo based kind of, or not pseudo. Pseudo. No, maybe sudo. I think it's sudo super user do it as command. No, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's based on that. And then below that, you had like Sun Microsystems, which were really big in business. And yeah, I think Oracle had some stuff based on Unix, but there's subtle differences between all of them. The BSD spins typically have better networking, like Netflix and stuff like to use them because of, I think the networking packets are a little more efficient. than what's in Linux. That, and they use an MIT license instead of GPL, and that means they could use it for more commercial things. I think that was what happened with Sony PlayStation. It's based on BSD, and very, very interesting. Do you think it's possible to modernize Windows fully, or do you think it's always going to have this old stuff in it? Hannah, I think it's always going to have the old stuff in it, because underneath it all, there's this kernel that all these programs are based on, and they're not going to rewrite the whole kernel. It doesn't make any sense. If anything, there's this dream that many people have that they would throw away the NT kernel and then morph it to a more suitable kernel like Linux. And if they did that, that means everything would be compatible with Windows and Linux. It'd unite the ecosystems. It'd be like kumbaya and everything worked great. Which, I love this. I love this future, by the way. I love that idea. But the realities of the world, I think, will always prevent that from ever happening. The reason why that old kernel stays is because of one fact: vendor lock-in. Windows has all the market share. They have all the programs based on their stuff. Every video game that you play on a PC is based on Windows. And for them to give all that up, just don't see it. I just do not see it. Money, I think, always prevails. Even though I'd love to be wrong about that. I need a drink. 1 second. Ah. All right, there we go. Magical door. Yeah, file systems are also a really interesting thing I probably should go more in depth on. NTFS, which is what Windows is based on, is getting pretty long in the tooth these days. Linux has a lot of different file systems to choose from, but ZFS is my favorite file system. And it's not very friendly with Windows or Linux. But why do I love ZFS so much? I've done a lot of business stuff where you have SANs or storage area networks, and a lot of the network attached storages have ZFS, and it is an amazing file system. It's very, very hardened and proven. It has snapshots, and you can easily restore stuff like it instantly. Let's say something happens on your system, you can easily revert back in just a matter of a split second. Let's say I got a really bad virus and I wanted to rewind time to 2 days ago, and I have a snapshot there. Press of a button and a reboot of the system, and it's back. And it's so darn powerful. You also have a lot of the data redundancy. I think it was Tom over at Lawrence PC Systems tried to zap his free NAS system. I think it's called TrueNAS now. I could be wrong. IX Systems makes it though, and it's all ZFS based. And it was hilarious. Like, they hooked up like jumper cables and just zapped and fried the whole board trying to mess up the ZFS array, and they just couldn't. And me personally, I had that set up going in the garage here when I did like mining 3 or 4 years ago. And I remember having that whole FreeNAS setup, and I switched from an AMD board that was, I think it was an 8350, an FX 8350, a long time ago, old AMD board. And I switched that to a newer Pentium processor. Full different architecture, different memory speeds. Everything was different about it. I just took my drives, put them over here, plugged it in, and it just worked. I mean, it was amazing to see switch all that out. But ZFS itself is freaking just magic in a box. But BetterFS is not bad. That's a good runner-up, and that's more Linux friendly. Yeah, I kind of hate Intel. So I'm definitely an AMD. I'm definitely Team Red all the way. But the reason for that isn't because AMD's great. It's mainly just because I hate Intel, because I had a 4th gen Intel chip with a motherboard, and I bought it like 2 years ago, and we had like a power surge, and my motherboard went out. And I couldn't get that same chipset, that same gen motherboard. So I had to go buy a new motherboard. But because of that, I couldn't use my same CPU, because everything with Intel, every single new generation has a whole new chipset, whole new motherboard required. There's almost no backwards compatibility. With AMD, you don't have that. You can actually upgrade that motherboard and take it many generations. And that is just amazing. And I'm kind of frugal, and I like the fact I have some upgradability with some of the AMD chips, where Intel, you just don't ever get that. So it's not so much about the speed and performance, which AMD's kicking Intel's butt right now, which sweet. Except in the laptop realm, Intel still pulls out ahead in the laptop realms, funnily enough. I don't know if many people know that, but anyways, yeah, that's why I'm all Team Red for the most part. I have not done BetterFS on Windows yet. Yeah. Yeah.
We brought home mimosas if you want.
Mimosas?
Yeah, mimosas. You know what a mimosa is?
Isn't that like an alcoholic beverage?
No.
What?
Mimosa, it's like a taco thing.
Oh,
Cheese and meat inside.
solid?
Like,
Oh.
you
Okay, I'll be in a minute. I'll eat that. No, it's a Mexican dish. I heard mimosa and I'm like, stream ended. Gonna go drink. No, but it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Oh man, so great. No, it's food. It's great. Definitely be drinking later tonight. It's me and my wife's anniversary weekend. Oh man, I love it. Which Linux distro would you recommend to a newbie? I would recommend Linux Mint. It's a great operating system. It's very friendly to most Windows users coming to Linux. If you want a different distro, my runner-up would be Pop! OS. System 76 makes a great distro in Pop! OS. Thank you. Yeah, we've been married for 12 years now. I had to think about that. But been together for, man, 16 years. Yeah, Garuda's though, like the out-of-box experience for Garuda is so cool. Like it has probably one of the best setups, because for the longest time I always harped on all Linux distros. I'm like, please improve the out-of-box look. If you want people to use your distro, you should make it look cool. And it really wasn't until I saw Garuda that I was like, finally, someone did it right. This looks freaking cool out of the box. And that's Garuda Linux. I didn't really care, because I just modified my Linux distro to always look freaking cool, because that's just important to me. But Garuda just looks cool out of the box, and I can appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, man. Needs to see all versions of Linux and Windows. I've seen almost every version. I've been on Windows since DOS in the 3.11 days. I don't think I ever used Windows like 2.0 or 3.0 or 1.0. It was mainly DOS, and then we finally installed 3.11 on top of DOS, and then 95, 98, ME, 2000, XP, and then so on and so forth. What OS do you recommend playing on Windows platform? If you're doing gaming, probably, Garuda wouldn't be a bad decision for gaming. I've always liked the Arch-based distros when it comes to full gaming compatibility, because you get a little bit newer drivers, a little bit more bleeding edge, and it's a little bit kinder to a lot of the newer hardware that hits the market. How much RGB do you have in your boxes? I am the anti-RGB, anti-liquid cooling guy. I hate all RGB with a passion. This is my RGB over here. These are my boxes. They have lights right here, power light, and then a hard drive light. That's all the RGB you need. You don't need anything else. You and your youngsters and your craziness and RGB. Back in my day, all we had was a power light and a hard drive light, and we liked it that way. But they're all in a rack, and the boxes don't have any windows. It's just all laid down in there. And all just traditional spinning fans. But never. Oh, wait. I did get this. I got something special. I'll return. We'll see ya. All right, here it is. I got this sucker. Wait a second. This is how much I love heat sinks, guys. I just haven't gotten around to doing this. Oh, this is this is what I love. If I can get it out of the box. Oh boy. Yeah, buddy. Oh, yeah. This is ridiculous, but wait for it. The big reveal here. Wait. We gotta do this right. Yes. The heat sink to end all heat sinks. Look at that big bad boy. Yes. That's what eats your heart out, liquid cooling. This is all you ever need. It's bigger than my head. That's where it's at. Oh. Yeah, that's true. If I get in money trouble, I'll just melt that bad boy down. I bet it's worth just as much in block form. It is so ridiculous, though. Look at that. Like, look at the comparison. Like, here's an Xbox controller. I mean, yeah, buddy. That is ridiculous. But I love it. I know. What is the wattage of that beast? Is it heavy? Oh, it's actually not that heavy. Probably, I would say probably 2 or 3 pounds. Let's see, does it say on the box here? Weight, 1,180 grams. What's that to pounds? Let me see. 1,180 grams to pounds. Oh, dang. That's 2.6 pounds. That's a big ass heat sink. Oh, it's ridiculous. I love every minute of it, though. Oh, my gosh. Oh, so great. I will put this back up, though, because I don't want it to be damaged. My beautiful heatsink. I don't even think I need to put that in a computer. That's how awesome it is. Oh, All right. I don't know where I'm gonna put that yet. I think I'm gonna put it in my streaming PC, but I'm kind of tempted to put it elsewhere. I might actually buy two and go completely silent because I'd still get some reverb from the rack back here, which I don't necessarily like with some silent stuff. But I used to have a window AC unit in here that made a ton of noise, and I just recorded through it. And now I finally have upgraded to where I don't have the window unit anymore, which is nice. How do you feel when people more than 90% your age are a techno boomer and you are you? Hey man, it's okay. Different strokes for different folks. I mean, but I'm not a flashy guy. Like, my car's 8 years old. My wife's car's like 11 years old. The shirt's probably 4 years old or 2 years old. I don't know. I usually just wear them until they start getting a kind of a tearing up or getting a funk. And then I'm like, all right, time to get a new shirt. But usually I just wear the same thing. Like, I think my work shirts I've had for more than 10 years. Mainly I have an undershirt, so it's not as gnarly as you think. It sounds bad, but yeah, I just very minimal. I don't really care. Oh yeah, the AC was nuts, wasn't it? It was nuts. But so nice now that I got the split level. It makes being in here a lot better too. Yeah, no. I guess I'm considered a millennial. Or Gen X. I think it's Gen X. It depends. I'm like on the cusp because I'm early 80s. So I'm on the cusp between Gen X and millennial. I don't spend any money, but when I do, it's for a massive heatsink. Only the important stuff. Love it. So the heatsink actually will work fanless for most systems, but I have a little bit more on the cores. Like most of my systems are 8-core, 16-thread systems. I have on the streaming PC, it's a 2700, so that's 8 cores, 16 threads. It has a little bit higher TDP and heat generation. So that one will require a fan with it. For the main system here that you're seeing on the desktop, that's a 5600X, the newest gen Ryzen, but that's only 6 cores, 12 threads. But even it will still require some passive fan. Now, what you can do on the Noctuas, here's these right here. These are low speed fans that you buy from, it'll have LS in front of the PWM. PWM's the 4 pin, which it can control the fan speed. And then the LS is low speed. But when you open these up, even the regular Noctua fans, you don't necessarily have to go Noctua. I love them. I'm a sucker for them just because they've worked so well for me. But I know you could probably get something else. And there's something called this guy. Focus. Yeah, let's see. Come on. Nope. Maybe right there. Yeah. Does that show it? Can you see that? Maybe. Low noise adapter. Anyways, so you hook this guy up. Yeah. You hook this guy up, and then you can put that in there and it will reduce the fan speed even more. So you can usually get this sucker down to be so whisper quiet you won't hear a thing. So, fun project. I love silent systems. A lot of people are always saying liquid cooling is the way to go for silence. And you guys know how I feel about liquid cooling. And I'm saying, hey, if you just get some really good fans and a really good heatsink, you get the reliability of that and none of the maintenance that you have with your liquid cooling, but it also is very, very quiet. And even if you have the fan die, not the end of the world, honestly. You might get some thermal throttling, but it's enough to be like, hey, something's wrong. And then you can check out and replace the fan. Will it work on a Threadripper? That'd be great, Alex. Oh. On your AMD, does it render faster than your M1? I couldn't do a good comparison since I have Final Cut, but I think the M1 still pulls out ahead in single core performance. I did do a Geekbench, and I think even the M1 came out ahead of that. I was like, oof, that's rough. I didn't think that would happen, but yeah, the M1's really as good as people say it is. Yeah, Fractal, Be Quiet, both those are good. I've used both those and they are very good. What are you using right now? Oh man, check this out. An old Pixel. This is the Pixel 4a, not the 5G model. Thanks, Kev Tech, for the support. I will definitely have a beer on you tonight, sir. Like I said, me and the wife are going out, and we will definitely partake, probably more than one. But yeah, the Pixel phones I really enjoy, and a lot of people are like, wait a second, that's Google product. I'm like, yes, but it does have an unlocked bootloader. Also, the actual camera and the actual design of the 4A, not the 5G model, but the 4A. Reason why they did the 4A is one, it's $150 cheaper. This was $350, $350, pretty decent phone. Unlocked bootloader, so I could do custom ROMs. So I wanted to do some de-googling and stuff, which is funny enough. Google Pixel is one of the best phones to de-google. And I also get really good battery life out of that sucker. With the 5G model, you actually, even though it comes with a bigger battery, the battery life is actually worse because 5G uses up a little bit more juice. Hey Chris, any plans to do a collab with David Bombay or Network Chuck? Network Chuck eventually I will probably do a collab with because he is right down the road from me. He lives in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I need to hit him up. I haven't yet. Probably need to get his phone number eventually, but I will definitely hit up Network Chuck because he's local to me. I am not de-googled anymore. I've still went back to my masters at Google. Yeah, I mean, I was hammering that drum for a bit there. As far as it being distros don't matter and that type of thing. I think everyone just needs to customize. I've kind of gone to a more broad approach where it was like, hey, let's just focus on customizing whatever operating system you want. Windows, Linux, Mac, they all pretty much have to be customized. Mac, I really hate customizing. But Magnet is an amazing program. Check that out if you're using Mac. Thanks, Alex. Much appreciated for the beer money. Do you expect Proton to work on every game on Steam? I don't think that's possible. No matter what they do. Proton can never work on every game on Steam because there's just certain things that just don't work well. Specifically, Uplay games will always have some kind of issue. I think they'll get it to a point where 90-something% work. And that's pretty much where it is. Yeah, the tribute to Sir Clive Sinclair, who passed away yesterday in England. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was one of the pioneers of a lot of the early computing days. Sad. For Windows and Apple, you have to waste time customizing it because it will only let you customize the clumsy GUI. Yeah, I mean, Linux is obviously far more modular. Like, you're not going to customize the file manager in a Mac or Windows, where Mac, it's going to be Finder. Windows, you're going to be using Windows Explorer. Yes, you can add third-party tools, I think like TerraCopy and some other stuff to enhance that experience, but it's still underneath it, still the same. So you don't get the modularity that you do in Linux. But a lot of times the modularity can be rough for some people because you have to learn all the different options that you have. Most people, when they come to Linux, it's just so overwhelming because there's so much to learn. Yeah, someone sent me a picture on Twitter and said they got a 3080. I was like, oh my God, you lucky SOB. But hey, one of these days. Yeah, I think my Steam Deck's gonna get here July 2022. I got in super late. I'm gonna come out with a Steam Deck video and be like, hey, I just need to make this video real quick because I need to expense this on my taxes. I know you guys have already known all about the Steam Deck. It's just, I'm getting it 6 months late. So, my Steam Deck video is going to be interesting, to say the least. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream right now, guys. I have really enjoyed this. I love jumping on here, chatting with everybody. It's always a blast. If you are looking for the original portion of the stream where I talked about IPFS and all that, by all means, it'll be unlisted. I think it'll be in the playlist, members only playlist, which I usually leave them unlisted public for at least a couple days, and then I put them to members only, so they just kind of separate out of all the YouTube algorithm, and it also gives kind of a bonus for anybody that's a member, a channel member, that they can easily just jump in there and watch everything. I've even taken down some old videos that I was like, I don't want that up there anymore. And I usually just members only those too. So if there's a members only video, I think the biggest video I did had like 1 million views that I privated was Ubuntu was the devil. If you guys remember that video, I took that down just because it was still making a lot of money, but at the same time, it wasn't attracting the viewers that I thought would be good. I think it was more negative than anything. So I actually ended up taking down that video, surprisingly enough. And I didn't articulate my thoughts all that well. So I was like, I'm going to members only that. And I put a lot of videos into that section. So if there's an old video, that's where they are. But for this live stream, it'll also be in the live streams members playlist. And it'll be there for at least a couple days, public. So check it out. Next week, I'm going to try and do some live streams. I don't want to commit to a schedule just because between the 3 YouTube channels and my day job, I don't have a whole lot of time, and I don't really have a team or anybody. And I kind of just like it that way. I just like kind of just doing my thing, you know? So usually whenever I can, I just jump on. I try to do it usually towards the end of the week. This week I did it yesterday and today, and it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I love live streaming. It's just great. And I'm just going to start putting them up on YouTube. I used to live stream over on Twitch a lot, but lately I'm like, man, with OBS integration, even though it crashes my stream almost every time, at least I kind of made it this time where when it crashed, I was able to reboot the stream. But yeah, that's kind of my jam. But thank you guys all for coming by, chatting. Always a blast. I love it. I love chatting and kind of hearing everything, and then hearing all the other different stuff people drop in. Rethink DNS, I think, is one thing I'm going to check out off stream, and some other stuff I saw in chat where people are like, hey, check this out. It's kind of fun. Kind of fun always seeing that. Being on top of some of this stuff can be overwhelming sometimes, and having people just drop a little nugget and says, hey, check this out. This is amazing. I always use every stream I learn something new from chat, which is amazing. So, all right, guys, take it easy. Have a great one. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.